Hello and welcome to the Throw Show. Whoa, 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 whoa. I am your fill-in host for today, Jason, and here with me is Olympic Trials qualifier, men's discus competitor at this year's Olympic Trials, Mr. Sam Weeks, and Throws University high school coach, technical coach. He'll be taking us through all the technique for today.
Yes,
and we got a lot to talk about today, Sam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get into it.
So we'll be breaking down the Olympic trials, each event in the throws this week. I had the pleasure of going in and interviewing some of the athletes. We'll be going and looking at some of those interviews, some crazy sound bites we got from the United States Olympic team. And then also we'll get into the state of international throwing, looking at some big things that happen from around the world. And then finally, we'll get into the big talk of the track world, or at least the throws world, is a certain track league that's going to be popping up, and throws will not be included. So we'll be hearing some thoughts from world champion Joe Kovacs, and then we'll give our own thoughts on what we think is the best way to handle a new track league and new throws league that could hopefully grow the sport and maybe get some more money in the pocket of those elite throwers. So we're going to start off with what most people would call the main event of the throws in the Olympic trials, and that's going to be the men's shot put. Right now we have the footage from the top three. We got Ryan Crouser winning his third Olympic trials, going to look for his third Olympic title. Joe Kovacs getting second, and Peyton Otterdahl getting third. So I'll default to you, Sam. What did you think about this competition when you saw it?
I think this competition, obviously the top two were very expected. I'm very glad that Peyton was able to put one together, to take third place. It was very fun to watch. I personally, just based off of, how Ryan came out and, saying how he was feeling, I thought Joe was going to take it. I felt like Joe was primed to take it. You were able to interview Joe at the end, and he kind of discussed his feelings about the competition. And, everything that Joe said, I agreed with him. I felt like this was his competition to win. Unfortunately, it wasn't that time, and, he still got second. He still did really well, but I truly thought he was going to win this one.
So since you brought it up, I'm just going to get straight into it, and then we'll talk about the technique of these guys. We have the soundbite.
I screwed up today. I should have beat Ryan by a meter today. No offense to him, he knows it too, and I'm pissed off because it was a pretty day for me. And I'll be honest with it. And I feel like I let down our training because of it. But Ryan's going to come do what he does, so I have to make sure I can do a better job than that.
You can see my comment right there. I said I agree with that 100%. And I still stand on that. I feel like this was his competition to lose, and unfortunately, just Ryan is Ryan and did Ryan things. But I mean, overall, it was a great competition. The energy was high. It was fun. Hayward, it was dope.
Yeah. So I had the privilege to see the last Olympic trials in stadium live, and I will say this one had a different kind of energy to it, because the main differences I saw was in the 2021 trials, we knew that a world record was probably going to be broken that day, because I can confirm that I watched Ryan Crouser take a 22-meter half turn in warm-ups of that competition specifically. And I can confirm, because they did measure it after the fact, that Joe Kovacs had a warm-up over 2380. So it was like, this was before the world records this was the first meet that the world record was broken since Randy Barnes. So you kind of knew if you were there that something special was going to happen. This one had a different aura to it, because Crouser admittedly did not have the warm-ups I'm used to seeing him have. We're talking about a guy who could stand throw close to 20 meters, but he was only stand throwing like maybe 1750 to 18, taking half turns at 20 meters. So he's meters below what I've seen him do at previous championships. And Joe was just being Joe. He was blasting it, but admittedly even a little more conservative than I'm used to seeing him. And I think he knew he wanted to come out and blast it, but like, he walked away with the 22:43, and he's incredibly disappointed in a performance like that, because he thinks he should be throwing at least a meter further.
Yeah.
Can you what do you think of someone claiming that basically he's in 24-meter shape, and that if he's not throwing mid-23s, he's not throwing to his actual shape.
I mean, he said it, his training, based on his training, he was in that 23-meter shape. I forget what competition it was. I was watching it with Tamon Johnson, our shot putter, and Joe went 23 like a few times in that competition. So like his training was there, and I believe him 100% that he was definitely in shape to throw far. It just it wasn't there.
So besides just the two big guns, we knew Krauser and Joe were going to qualify, but really was a chase for third place. Peyton Otterdahl's been really good shape this whole season, most consistent he's ever been, multiple throws over his old personal best from prior years. So we knew he was in shape to be that third man, but he was struggling throughout the competition. I don't think it was until round 5 he actually sealed it. And ironically enough, another guy who we'll be looking at later today is another Pennsylvania thrower, the fourth one in the last 10 years to go 22 meters. Jordan Geist was in that third position this whole time, and he had the the Olympic standard. So it was looking very possible that Jordan was actually going to get on that team.
Yeah.
But dude, Peyton showed up. Like, he proved like not only is he in incredible shape, but he's a competitor, and he's ready to hit distances when it matters.
Absolutely. And you have to. Like, USA shot put is out of this world, and if you're not, primed, if you're not ready for that moment, it's going to slip by you. And obviously Peyton showed that he's ready for this moment, and he did his thing. He made it count when it mattered most. So
I love a little story about Peyton. So like I said earlier, I had the privilege of interviewing the athletes after the competitions in the mixed zone. And admittedly, you and I are both anime fans, so I thought he would find this funny. He entered the Olympic Stadium doing the Frankie super pose from One Piece in Tokyo. And I kind of asked him, I was like, oh, what are we going what One Piece character are we going to see this year? He didn't reveal anything. I'm not sure if he's too interested in maybe having that level of fun, and maybe just all business this year. But personally, I look forward to, what you enter into the stadium as this year, Peyton. I look forward to it.
Same.
Okay, so we went over Joe's discussion. But dude, outside of American shot putting this year, the talk of the throwing world I think it's got to be Leo Fabbri this year.
100%. This man has been on fire all season. I forget how many competitions. It's somewhere around like 10, maybe 10 plus. And I think only one of them was under 22 meters.
Dude, that's wild.
Absolutely out of this world.
I think the thing is, I don't know. So Sam was a Division I coach, and he's coached at multiple divisions. So at multiple levels, you've seen athletes make breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen an athlete? Because literally you can point to a very specific point in time with Fabbri of where things changed. And it was World Championships last year in Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
His PR walking into that meet was like $21.99. And he had that for a few years now. He goes into Worlds, PR says 22.30, gets silver medal, has a foul we pretty are sure is around 23 meters. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, what happened? Where did this come from with Fabbri? And there's every single meet since then, he's been putting on 22 mid to high 22 performances. What is it like? Is that like a mental barrier you see as a coach, or what do you think has led to such a drastic change in performance?
I think that moment at Worlds really just, it clicked. It gave him the confidence. Anime reference, he was Rock Lee, he dropped the weights, and ever since then, he's just been on fire. And I mean, like, obviously, it's exciting to see because, like, everyone knows that USA shot put is, like, very, very dominant. But, like, to see, these other countries, establish these guys who could challenge us, makes it a little more exciting. Like, it just adds a little bit of the drama, per se, to shot putting, and it just makes this event, so much more exciting. He's been killing it all season, and I'm not saying, he's going to beat USA, but, like, I think he's going to, challenge us, and it's going to make it very fun.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we haven't even brought up about this throw specifically that we're highlighting, his 22.95. I think that puts him in the top 5 all-time list. Yes, because I think he's number 5 all time now. But what people might forget is he broke probably one of the hardest records in shot putting. And he broke the Italian national record set by Alessandro Andre. And Andre was the first thrower. Here's some like throwing nerd knowledge. Back in 1975, Brian Oldfield threw 75 feet even, was the first man to throw 75 feet. And that was not ratified by the IAAF at the time. So for over 10 years, Ryan Oldfield was the farthest shot putter, but he didn't have the world record. Alessandro Andre was the first person to actually throw farther than Oldfield and really cement like he was the world record holder at the time. Now, it only lasted for like a year until Timmerman broke and be the first man to throw 23. But that was one of those records because we never see really an Italian shot putter come close to that distance in the last 30 years. I was always of the assumption that was just that was a record that was just never going to be broken, that national record. And to see someone from Italy, and not only that, like a native Italian come in and prove that like he's not only he not only broke Andre's record, but he could be chasing Krauser's world record too. So that's just some throwing history I just think is fascinating. And one thing I thought was really cool, speaking of which, is Fabbri posted this on Instagram, and it was a conversation they had with the former record holder, Alessandro Andre, over the phone, basically telling him that he's no longer the record holder. And I think that's the part of the sport that I love.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when like the older generation, you know, pays homage to like the newer, it's like they acknowledge that. Like I absolutely love that. You know, me and my buddies back home, we talk about like paying it forward for that next generation, and this is a clear example of that. And this makes me very happy.
Yeah. So we're still on the men's shot, but we'll be done very soon. But I did want to highlight this performance because I do think it went a little bit under the radar this year. Is Jordan Geist became the 4th Pennsylvania thrower in the last 10 years to throw 22 meters. And as a proud Pennsylvanian and former shot putter, I love that because to me, it's like Pennsylvania is the shot put state of the United States, and no one can take that away from us.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan Whiting back in the early 2010s threw 22 meters. He was the top guy for the United States. Darrell, Diamond League champion, throwing over 22 meters. Obviously, Joe Kovacs, number 2 all time, chasing down Krauser, world champion. And now we got a 4th with Jordan Geist. And what's cool about Jordan is Jordan was like a big deal in high school.
Yeah.
You know, he was throwing 70 feet since his sophomore year. You know, I think he's the 2nd number 2 all-time thrower outdoors or something like that, at least very much indoors. Ironically, 2nd to Krauser. And you know, he's finally coming into his own after graduating college. And I think it's exciting because, dude, who knows where he'll be in 3 years? He could be challenging 23.
Absolutely. Jordan is literally different. Obviously, this is a huge toss, and I don't want to move on, but he also did something very similar in the men's hammer where he was applying a lot of pressure to, you know, some of the top guys. And it's just like so dope to see, you know, Jordan kind of just thrive, you know, post-collegiate. Like he's been killing it, and it's like, you know, he's doing this and he's doing it in the hammer as well. Like he's a true dual threat. Like what can't this man do?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost kind of cool to add to the legacy. It's like something that's even that I forget sometimes is he also broke Michael Carter's 16-pound record. So he has the high school record with a 16-pound throwing almost 21 meters. So it's taken a while, but I think he's finally back to the technique that's going to show that, you know, he's going to be one of the best of all time if he keeps pushing it.
USA shot put just keeps growing.
And, okay, this is going to be the true last one, but this is such a random occurrence, and this isn't to discredit anything that this man has done. This is the first time I've heard about him. Mohammed Tolo out of Saudi Arabia, a glider, ironically enough, in 2024.
We're still alive.
Throwing 2180, almost pushing out 22 meters to win in Madrid. And when I saw this come up, I was like, I don't know what to say other than, like, to me, I think it's proof that the glide is still a valid technique in competition and elite level shot putting. But also it's like, one thing I need to highlight here is the progression of distance in personal best. This is over 1 meter of improvement with the glide.
Yeah, no, that's pretty big. Like, that's hard. That's really hard to do, especially at like a high level like that.
Yeah.
That's hard.
So I know we need to have other events to get onto, but I am just curious from a coach's perspective, what do you see in a throw like this that you think led to such an increase in distance?
Well, obviously he has that stretch reflex. He unseats the hips. He gets, to the power position fairly quick. He maintains that wrap position, and that all just, gets put into the finish, and he has a sweet save. It's perfect. It's perfect to the minute detail. Perfect.
I love to see it. As they say, the glide lives.
The glide lives, baby.
Okay, so now we're finally getting into some other events. We have the women's shot put at the trials. Chase Jackson comes out and wins. Actually, and I didn't even realize this, is making her first Olympic team for the United States. Raven Saunders, she was off for a while, but now she's back, throwing just short of her personal best here. Mm-hmm. Clearly in good shape, ready to go over 20 meters. And then we have Jada Ross, who's the NCAA champion, and she's the first collegiate to ever break 20 meters. Mm-hmm. So I think we're bringing possibly the best women's shot put team ever in the history to the Olympic Games.
Absolutely. I think Chase has been dominant for, a few years now. Raven is super explosive, and, she's back, and I feel like she just has that switch where, she's on, and I think Jada has some of the best technique. It's very, very consistent. So I think, the three of them are going to go to Paris and kind of just hold it down.
Yeah, and kind of reiterating what Sam just said about Jada is that's something that Dane has also been very vocal about, thinking that Jada has incredible technique. And you can watch our latest throw show prior to this one and see, like, you guys just go gaga over her movement. And it's worth it, dude. She moves super well.
Super smooth, and it's very consistent.
And I think, like, throwers, like, these are the athletes you need to keep watching to improve your own throws. Like, keep watching the ones that have that repeatable technique, and then you can borrow those elements, and they're probably going to translate to farther throws for yourself as well.
Absolutely.
And again, I got another interview with some athletes. Raven, just going to say selfishly, Raven was my favorite interview. I got her twice after qualifying and after the final, and she gave my favorite responses in terms of just the pure emotion and energy she has for the sport and what she's looking forward to do as an athlete. Like, I think we need more athletes saying these kind of lines to really get the audience and fans more engaged with what we, with these events. So we're going to play this here.
Stay tuned, because I'm walking away with a I'm getting gold. I don't care. I'm going to be throwing 20, whatever it take. Whatever it take, I'm there. Whatever it take. Tell the rest of them that, because I know y'all going to post this.
That's the confidence of a champion. That's the confidence of someone who knows they can win and they want to win. And I think that is, like, the best thing. I feel like, obviously, Raven's a big personality, but, like, she knows deep down that she has that possibility to do that. And for her to put that out there, especially knowing that we're going to post it, I feel like is a huge confidence booster. Like, you never know. She might do it.
It was really funny because you basically got that look from her where she was like, Jason, you better post this. I'm giving you gold right now. Like, and dude, it performed well on Instagram. It's like, it got people talking. But I think, like, as sort of like a side note, we'll get into this later at the very end of the show. But, like, to what Sam said, this is what the sport needs. We need these personalities. We need people to hype up the events. It's okay, to talk some crap to each other, because ultimately, if you look at every successful sport in the world, and this is an individual sport, so I think something that we can closely compare it to is like fighting. What sells pay-per-views is not the skill of the fighter. It's the trash talk that goes before it. It's the story. And I think Raven is setting herself up for an incredible story. She was off for over a year and a half. She comes back. She's only throwing in Oklahoma, and people had no idea what she was doing. And then she comes to the trial and blasts it. Mm-hmm. And Chase, who is the heavy favorite, the American record holder, Raven doesn't care. Has Raven even hit 20 meters as a person? I don't even think Raven has a personal best of 20 meters.
I don't think so.
She doesn't care. She's she's going to do whatever it takes to win. Whether it's throwing 20 meters, maybe an American record, she doesn't care.
She's ready.
And I think that's the mentality we need to really get fans engaged, because now you're going to have Raven fans. Now you're going to have Chase fans. You're going to have Jada fans. You might even have Jessica Schilder fans. They're all going to come and want to support these women because of the personality and story of their career that's going to take them into the event.
Absolutely. Question before you move on.
Of course.
Will Raven finish her story? You know the reference. Will she finish the story? You know the reference.
Yeah. I'm going to say hesitant yes. Because she is such an unknown. Like, that is the hardest part about grading Raven. I mean, obviously she's in great shape. She did what she did in qualifying and trial and the final. I said to her, like, after qualifying, like, you made a statement today. Like, you basically blasted the mark that, like, oh shoot, like, Ravens came to play. Like, she's not in bad shape.
No.
So she did at the end of the day, the trials is just qualifying for the team. The medals and the placings are kind of irrelevant in this case. It's really just about, did you make the team and can you get the job done at the Olympics? You know what? I'm just going to commit. I think Raven can get it. I like Chase. I think Chase is an incredible champion. But in this instance, Raven is sort of a wild card. She hasn't really competed against a Raven in this kind of condition. So that might, we'll see. We'll see. What's your take? What's your take?
I like Raven. I think she's in good potential to finish the story. I'm sorry, Chase has she's been so dominant. But like you said earlier, this is the first, Olympics, so it's like
Raven's been here twice and she's performed well each time.
That is valid. We'll find out. What do you think?
She thinks she's ready to take that gold. She has a silver medal from Tokyo. We'll see if Raven finishes her story. Okay, so now we get into the women's jab. We have Maggie Malone Hardin winning, breaking the Olympic trials record.
First attempt.
Yep, first attempt. Unfortunately, maybe playing the spoiler to the comeback story of now a very good friend of mine, Kara Winger. And basically, I felt like the trials, Kara was like the big story just surrounding the whole throws community with her returning from retirement. To come back to try to make a 5th Olympic team. And one thing I'll say is, guys, one of the best interviews we've ever done is with Kara. So head over to the Garage Strength YouTube channel and check out our hour-long podcast with Kara. She has incredible insights on, one, being a thrower, being an athlete, but also the technique of the javelin and things that, like, other javelin throwers could be watching to improve themselves. But, like, what's your take on the state of the women's javelin? Unfortunately, we saw that Kara did not qualify for the Olympics, but Maggie is indeed going, which is very cool. Do you think Maggie could walk away with some hardware?
Based off of the results that I've seen, I obviously got to watch Maggie throw at trials, and I got to watch her throw at Ironwood. She had really 2 big performances, so I feel like she's primed to kind of, just make a statement out there. So I think if everything kind of just stays, where it is, and she stays, fresh and prepared, I think she could do something special.
Yeah, I think it's important to know it's like 64 meters in this current climate of the women's javelin could medal. Like, that is very much a medal contention mark.
Yeah.
So, dude, keep your eyes open for the women's javelin. I think you're going to be surprised with some of the results. And kind of just, we had an interview with Kara, which I thought was really cool. So I'm just going to play a little bit of that.
Like, I know I have 64 in me is I threw 62.65 in round 1 in New York. And then I got more nervous. And then I threw 63.22. So to improve with the nerves, to hold my technique strong, like, I was better technically in New York than I was here today. There's just so much more emotion here. And yeah, it's just fun. It's just really fun to know that I knew what I was talking about in 2022. Like, that's the experiment.
So I just want to pause that there. There's something so pure about just saying throwing's fun.
Yeah.
Like, that just puts a smile on my face.
Just watching Kara, I'm sure you guys saw, but I just had a smile on my face. It's just like, she just makes it fun, Just like,
I told her that I thought her energy is like, she might have the most infectious energy of any person I've ever met.
Absolutely.
So I guess real quick, but what's your take on, like, her whole comeback story? Like, she didn't start until the New York Grand Prix, which both you and I were at, by the way. Mm-hmm. We'll see a throw from Yaime later on, but, like, that was at the end of May. No, or was that June? Is it okay? At the very least, it was the very end of May or early June was the New York Grand Prix. What do you think of, like, what she's done? even just this season alone.
I think it's insane to just decide. Obviously, she had some planning, she had some preparation to kind of make this comeback, but truly to decide one meet before trials that's like, I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna fully commit to this and I'm gonna try to make the team. I feel like that's like insane. Like I don't think anyone, maybe, not too many people would do that. And I give props to Kara for doing that. She held her own. She came super close. Unfortunately, it just wasn't that time to get it, but she came in, she had positive energy, she supported everyone. Like seeing the crowd at Hayward kind of just like cheer for her was like insane because it was everybody. And for her to get so close, it's like you got to give props.
And one thing I want to provide some context here is, I'm sure if you follow Kara on social, she's been posting a lot. I can confirm. So I was like working with Kara a little bit in trials, and that woman did not stop working the entire week and a half prior to competition. She was getting content. She was going all over the stadium. She was doing whatever she felt like she could do to grow the sport of throwing at the biggest national championship we have every 4 years. So it's like her mind wasn't purely on just, I need to qualify for the Olympics. Her mind was probably in 10 different places, and she still came out and performed close to her best. Like, keep in mind, these marks that she hit in New York Grand Prix, qualifying and the final, would have been considered good meets for her during her career.
Absolutely.
So just also keep that in perspective. Like, she was doing quite a bit and still managed to perform at the levels that she did. And to kind of go off into the women's javelin, now we see the men's javelin. This video is of Kurt Thompson. He won throwing 83 meters. He's the only one representing the United States at the Olympics. Good dude. He's been a strong champion for the United States. Sam, you could probably speak to this better than I can, but what do you think about where Kurt's currently at and what you think he could do at the games?
Kurt is that dude. Curtis is that dude. He's another one that I got to see throw at Ironwood, and he put together, I believe he went 80 meters at Ironwood, or just, a little bit above 80 meters. So like I knew that he was going to make the team 100%. I put a poll up on Throws You, just asking, people what they thought would happen, for the finals for men's jav. And there was a lot of Curtis fans and there was a lot of Jordan Davis fans. Someone called it out. They said, whoever is going to win is going to throw 83 meters. And Curtis did that on his first attempt. He went out there. He knew what he had to do. He went 83, and now he's going to Paris. So, like, big shout out to Curtis. It was insane. It was super dope to watch.
And all props to Jordan Davis as well. He's had an incredible season. It's clear that him and his coach know exactly what they're doing. Broke the D2 record. I think he was the farthest collegiate this year across all divisions, if I'm right about that. Yeah, so he had an incredible season. It just wasn't good enough for the standards. So even though he didn't have the standards, so he's not able to go, but I think it's still a great competition for the men's jav. It's clearly getting better in the United States, and I'd like to see it kind of make the way of the women's hammer, which we'll be getting into soon, where the women's hammer wasn't super strong 10 years ago, but now it's the strongest team in the world. So I think we could very much see the same thing from men and even women's javelin. So speaking of women's hammer, now we're going to get right into kind of one of the unsung stories of the trials that I think is probably one of the most interesting. Is Annette Echekunwoke wins the trials with Deanna Price getting second and Erin Reese getting third. This was a crazy competition to watch. Sam, I don't know if how about you take it from here to kind of explain Annette's story and how this is such a great retribution for her and redemption story.
So I know some of the details you might have to fill in, but Annette represented Nigeria before, coming out to the U.S. trials. I believe she made the team, but through the Nigerian. So
this is actually a very similar thing that happened to garage strength athlete Cece Onyekwere Lyons. Is Annette was ready to compete at the Olympics in Tokyo. She was in there. She was in the village. Unfortunately, a bunch of Nigerian athletes were pulled aside and told that they could not compete. Basically, there was some bureaucratic errors with filing documents related to drug testing by the Nigerian Athletics Federation, and through no fault of the athletes, the IOC wouldn't let them compete.
Yeah. And
they were basically stuck there in Tokyo just watching their own competitions without the ability to actually make a difference in them. Annette was one of the few who decided that she wasn't going to deal with, some potential issues in her career that she has no control over. So she took things into her own hands, and she decided to leave her allegiance with Nigeria a few years back. And this was her first major competition competing for the United States. And it's crazy to think about that most people didn't even have Annette on the card to do anything at the trials. She looked good in qualifying, but if we're being real, everyone assumed the team was just going to be Deanna, Brooke, and Janae.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, as we'll talk about, some things don't go the way you think or the way you hope. And, Annette made the most of it. Not only did she make the team, but she won the freaking trials, dude.
Yeah.
And, I think she's in great shape to show that, dude, she could even podium at the Olympics, which is crazy to think about 3 years in hindsight.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she took the most out of this opportunity, and like you said, she won it. She showed everyone that it's like, I'm here, I can do this, and she did. Which props to her. Like, keep doing your thing. It's super dope. It's super dope to see.
And one thing I'll go in before, because I do want to talk about Brooke and Janae real quick, is Aaron Reese getting third. So I can tell you, being like in the media area where we're getting ready to interview these athletes, like, again, there was an expectation of who was going to make the team. And I can tell you, everybody in the media area was scrambling in round 6 because, it's not going to be Brooke, but who else had? And then we saw Aaron come out round 6, hit a improvement, get into third. And the immediate question is Aaron even Olympic eligible?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have the A standard. But then we had to go back and look at the points, and it turns out like she needed. It was like no one knew until after like the point systems were put out following the trials if she was gonna have enough points to be ranked high enough to even qualify for the games.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going with the assumption that she qualified, but just huge shout out to Erin because she wasn't on anyone's radar. She's a good thrower, but just being real, she was not, similar to Annette, she really wasn't on people's radar. And she made the most out of that competition, took advantage where other people didn't, and she got herself on the freaking Olympic team, bro.
Yeah, dude. Shout out Erin. You did that. That's all you, Erin. Shout out you.
She is her.
100%.
But the thing I kind of want to tie this back into is, again, Deanna makes her third Olympic team. So congrats to Deanna. Interviewed her. She's a phenomenal person. Every time you have a chance, throwers watching this, if you have a chance to meet Deanna Price, please go up and talk to her. Just say hi. She's a wonderful human being. But unfortunately, the world champion from 2022, Brooke Anderson, and world medalist Janae Casnavoid, who kind of hurt me a little personally because, full disclosure, Janae and I used to be teammates at Kansas State almost like 10 years ago. And it kind of hurt me to see like how well Janae has progressed in the sport, to see that she hasn't made the Olympic team. Brooke unfortunately fouled out, and I think that's proof to the sport that like the reason why we have these trials, man, is because you got to come out on the day and nothing is predetermined, because that's the system the United States has.
Mm-hmm. And
at the end of the day, like, I feel really bad for Brooke. I feel really bad for Janae because they're incredibly hard workers. I know they've been bouncing back and competing in Europe, and they've been having good seasons. But like, dude, that's just sometimes how the sport goes, and we just kind of have to accept it.
Yeah, you got to earn your right. Both of them they've been having great seasons. They, been doing their thing. Just it wasn't a day. It's unfortunate, but we have two new fresh faces representing the U.S. So let's see what happens.
I'm actually really confident. I think Annette is going to do something pretty crazy because she just looks so smooth and so good right now in the circle and so confident.
We can't forget about Erin. Obviously not Deanna, but you can't forget about Erin. You never know.
No, and that's the thing. If she is, she's clearly in personal best shape. So it's like if she keeps pushing her PB when it matters, like she could be doing damage as well. Now again, in the men's hammer, unfortunately, we're only bringing 2 this year to the Olympics, but kind of to expectation, it's, Danny Haw and Rudy Winkler going to the Olympics, going 1-2. Danny had a good meet, throwing over 79.50. Rudy had a good meet, throwing almost 79. And I kind of want to highlight the person who got third here, Justin Stafford. He PR'd twice. He PR'd in the qualifying and in the final to get bronze, throwing over 77 meters. And it's wild to me that we have a system where a 77-meter thrower can't make the Olympic team.
It was crazy.
And also, shout out to garage strength thrower Tyler Williams. He also hit a personal best in this competition, and throwing over 76 meters for the first time. I think he has shown the world that, like, as a former D3 thrower, that one, like, really doesn't matter where you come from. If you're willing to stick with the sport long enough and you're able to keep pushing distances and challenging guys, like, he's proved he's one of the best in the world. So I don't know. Do you have any comments on, like, the current state of the men's hammer?
I think, well, first, I just want to highlight this competition. I got to watch it in person, and it was insane. It was a roller coaster of emotions. Jordan Geist, we highlighted him earlier. He came out big, and he was leading for the first, like, couple rounds. I believe he went, I think it was 75 or 76. Like, he was sitting there, like, early. And then everyone just started popping off. I know Justin at one point, I think it was the third attempt, he went big, and it just kind of, like, everyone went crazy when he did that because he walked out like he knew he hit that mark. It was insane. He knew he did that, and it was just like, all right, pressure's on. If you guys want to make this team, you got to step up right now. And I think Danny hit his big toss. I think it was like right after and maybe like the next round after, and then it kind of just like really picked up. I believe the top 7 were all over 74 meters, which was like insane. Like, this competition was probably like the most competitive. It was the most hype, and it's like that's what we need, to continue to grow this sport. Just competitions where like everyone's super into it, they're super emotional, like they're getting the crowd into it. It was wild. Shout out to everyone in that men's hammer final. You guys killed it. It was, I hate to say it was probably the best competition.
Well, I think I might have a challenge for that later on, ironically. So we'll see when we get to that, because that one I have some personal feelings about. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the women's discus. Is it safe to say that Val is the most dominant, like, female thrower in the United States right now?
I believe.
Maybe even just thrower in the United States.
Without a doubt. I believe the top 10 U.S. marks are all Val's marks.
It might be even top 12.
It's something crazy.
Yeah.
She has all of them, which is, like, out of this world. It's insane. And to, no offense to Jaden and Veronica, to win this meet by 8 meters is absolutely crazy. It's bonkers. Val does Val things. She's super dominant. She's, another person who has really, really good technique and is super consistent and just, like, puts it together. But I do want to highlight Jaden and Veronica because they both have had insane seasons, and they also made their opportunity count the most at the trials, punching their ticket to go. Bears.
One thing I also want to highlight is there is Erica from Grand Valley State. She actually got 4th. She's a D2 thrower.
Mm-hmm.
She still has another year of eligibility, throwing over 62 meters. And basically, she is most likely going to break the D2 national record next year. But she came into the meet throwing with a PR 58 meters, threw over 61 in qualifying, and then threw over 62 in the final to get 4th place. I don't think she would have been eligible based off of points to qualify if she did get top 3. But I do want to highlight, like, just another thrower from a lower division making things happen, doing, boss things at the Olympic trials, and, like, proving, like, dude, no matter where you start, it matters where you end. If you just keep pushing it, anything's possible, So she's not highlighted here, but I did want to give a shout out to her. And also just like, this was a good competition. And I think one thing that needs to be noted about Val is she threw over 70 meters in qualifying and in the final. So back-to-back competitions over 70 meters. And dude, she looks so good right now. Like, I don't know what, like, she's been dominant in the Diamond League all season. I really don't know who can take out Val. Like, and I think one thing we do need to preface this with is you're probably seeing someone off this list that you'd probably expect, but unfortunately Lagi did not have a good trials. She fouled out in the qualifying. Lagi's the reigning world champion from Budapest. Unfortunately, she did foul out, but she was actually in really good shape because a lot of her sector fouls were in excess of 65 meters, which, you know, again, just like the women's hammer, like, it sucks. And I think one thing I kind of want to make a note for, so Sam and I were living, you know, we were living together in an Airbnb. You know, we were talking as the competitions were going in between, and there's a break in the trials between the first half and the second half. In the first half, we noticed that a lot of these competitions, people weren't really performing to their expectations, to their best. And in a competition like this, like the women's discus and the women's hammer, they happen in the first half of the event. And we were kind of thinking like, yo, if you want to make this happen, and you can't treat the trials as like safety throws. You have to go in there with the expectation they are going to blast it, because you never know if someone is going to take it from you. And I think we did see those performances, like other throwers realize that, and affect the back half of the trials. And Absolutely. That's where we started seeing the incredible performances in deeper fields, was the back half.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. It was just like, you know, I hate to use them as an example, but they were the example. It's like, if you are not ready, like physically, mentally, to, you know, punch your ticket, it's going to be super hard. And, you know, we had athletes show like, hey, if that opportunity is there, I'm going to take it.
100%. So you said the men's hammer was your favorite competition, or, you know, deepest competition. I'm tempted to say the men's discus. Ironically, the competition you competed in. Yes. Olympic trials qualifier here, by the way. So Sam, I kind of want you to take it from here. I have my own thoughts about the final, but why don't you take me through what it was like competing in the qualifying?
So just to start off first, this was my first trials. Unfortunately, the week before finding out that I made it and I could go, I had a slight strain in my pec. I was trying to prepare as best as possible. Unfortunately, it just did not get any better. I still went, but I was injured, and, you know, I wasn't able to do what I, you know, wanted to do. But just having that opportunity to be there was just out of this world. And, you know, I didn't make the finals, but to say like, yo, I competed with probably the best, you know, discus USA competition like ever is like out of this world. And it's still kind of hard to grasp. Like, that was the deepest competition. Like, it was out of this world. I know I said the hammer was probably the most competitive, but like, this was like truly like out of this world. And, you know, I know you'll share your opinions, and, you know, they can see it. Like, it was truly special.
7 men over 65 meters.
7 men, bro.
At a U.S. championship.
Yes.
So I made a few friends in the media area, one of them being from Stat Shack to Eric Bowl. And we were like looking at these stats after this competition. And we basically determined that this is probably the deepest discus competition in the history of any like major championship. Now, we're not talking, you know, like we are talking like worlds. Like, I'm going to say the U.S. championship is a major championship. We found a few competitions that were a little deeper, like, but we're talking like ones at Hala or the one in Ramona this year. This, in terms of fighting for a really important championship, is probably the deepest competition in the history of the sport. And that's wild to say, because years ago we used to say that the men's discus was not strong in the United States. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No, it's funny you say that. 'Cause before I moved down to PA, I asked Dane. I was like, as the U.S. discus was getting better throughout the years, I asked him, I was like, what do you think is the big difference? And I forget what he told me at that time. I'm not sure if he gave me an answer just yet, but it's just like you can see like the technique's getting better. You know, the athletes are getting stronger, and it's just like, you know, everyone, or not everyone, but like, you know, athletes are taking opportunities and they're grabbing it. They're just taking it. Hence Joe Brown, who, when I talked to Dane that morning of the finals, and I asked Dane what his prediction was, he was very like iffy because he doesn't like talking about predictions. But I told him, I said, I'm putting Joe Brown on my team prediction because I've seen this man throw 65 several times. He went 67 at Ramona, and I was like, Joe is the type of athlete where if you let him build, he's going to do it. And he did it.
So as soon as when Joe and Sam were doing their victory laps, and like, first off, shout out to our buddy Sam Mattis. Like, dude, we spent a week with him leading up to this competition. I don't know if you thought the same. The noise and aura of the house the morning of the final was very quiet.
Very quiet.
It was very much like we are all here for a job, and that job is don't screw up Sam. And Sam knew that his job was to, again, not do what happened in the first half. It was he needs to go out, and like we were literally talking like days prior, like he needed to come out round one, and he did that, throwing over 66. Absolutely. Now, so for me up in the rafters, I don't know what it was like sitting next to Dane during the competition, but for me, when Sam went 66, I was thinking like, oh, I was screaming. I was like, oh, comp over, he's in, like locked in, because I'm comparing it to previous championships where like 63 meters usually medals. And the fact that 7 guys are over 65, dude, I was a nervous wreck during that competition. How was Dane and you yourself like watching this live? Because that's our boy out there, you know?
Absolutely. Shout out to Sam. You know, you did your thing. I'm super proud of you. I knew you were going to do it, but you did it. I'm super proud. Being in the stands, you know, we all had that conversation where it's like, Sam, you have to win it on your first attempt. You know, you have to go big to really just put yourself in a good position, and he did that. I actually filmed a video, and I got Dane's raw reaction. It's actually hilarious, but as soon as Sam, you know, hit his toss, he hit his yell, we saw it fly. Like, we all knew, like, that's a big toss. I was recording it, and I pan over to Dane, and Dane's, let's go! Like, he's getting all animated. Like, he moves down to the stand where he could talk to Sam directly, and as soon as they knew, like, as soon as they locked eyes, they were like, yeah, like, that's the toss. That's the toss that's going to put me into position to go to Paris. And, you know, it was. Like, it truly was. And that toss was leading for a good chunk until Andrew Evans put it together, which, you know, was super huge. Like, he's very legit. And
shout out to Andrew.
Shout out to Andrew.
He's an incredible technician and competitor.
Absolutely. He put it together, and it was just like, all right, Andrew, Sam. And then it was just like, who was going to take that third spot? We had Brian Williams, who went sane. We had Marcus, I think it's Gustafsson, thank you. Sorry, I butchered that. But he went 65 as well. We had Reggie, who was
former D2 thrower, by the way, Marcus.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Divisions don't matter.
Same as Joe.
Divisions do not matter. Reggie, who was going big, you know, in a lefty win, which this was a lefty win, 100%. He was going big. He had one big foul, which was like insane. And it's like I wish that mark was good for him, because like I wish it was valid. That's what I want to say. I wish it was valid, but you know, that's something that you can't really control. And then who am I missing? Sam, Joe, Andrew. Like, Joe last attempt 65. His first attempt 42. I think it was like 60. And it was just like, all right, dude, like I gotta put it together. What was the exact quote?
Something
like,
are you talking about the very end of his interview?
Yeah, where he's like,
so that was when he saw the number 3 come up to on his name on his last throw.
Dude, he said something, I forget.
So one, I highly recommend. It's not. I'll link it in the description here. But if you're still listening by this point, check out the interview I did with Joe Brown. He is a very, very nice, wholesome human being, incredible guy. And he just had a really, really touching interview talking about like his heart went into his butt when he saw the number 3 come up to his name. But I think one thing I want to note about Joe Brown, kind of like off of what you said, he said he was going to retire if this meet didn't go well. Like he was leading for this to be his last meet. He was going to be done this year.
Yeah.
And I think I told you or Sam, but like after this, I think he bought himself at least 3 more years of competing. Because realistically, like, he's thrown 67, he's thrown 65 in stadium. I'm tempted to believe that he has the potential to throw 70 meters.
Don't doubt Joe. That's all I can say. Don't doubt Joe.
Yeah. And one side note about Joe as we get onto the rest of the events is I told Joe when he was doing his victory lap with Sam that the first thing I said, you are the scariest thrower I have ever seen. I feel like I've been watching throwing a long time. I've seen a lot of competitions from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I don't think I've ever seen a thrower who's marked a 42-meter throw and a 53-meter throw and then a near 66-meter throw in the same competition.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this isn't the first time Joe has done that.
No, it's not. And that's what just makes it so much, better.
Never, I'm just going to say this right now. If you're a discus competitor, never count out Joe Brown until the competition is over, because he, like he said, will pull something out of his butt and make it happen. He is scary.
Scary. Shout out Joe. Shout out Sam. Shout out Andrew as well.
So we just have some different angles. I think this is the one that you're talking about with Dane.
This is the video.
So this is your angle. You filmed this, Sam. Great video work.
Little pop off.
And you knew exactly where to go.
Look at him. Ah!
Hey, dude, this is one of my favorite parts of throwing is that little time in between you hitting the throw, walking out of the circle, and looking for the mark.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like there's like just a silence that waves over the stadium where you're just like, you don't know what to say, and then everyone erupts.
Yeah.
I love it. There's him, and shout out to Sam's dog Coda, because that's his little dog bone necklace that he wore. Coda's a good boy. And there's the medal with Dane. Yeah, doing the classic bite the medal pose. I love it. And one thing I want to shout out was just going into this competition, because I don't think we were able to touch on this much. But we did have 2 shot putters in the men, throw 21 meters this year. We had Nick Curtis go 21-13 earlier this spring. And then Tamand, like only 2 weeks out from trials, takes it. What's funny about it is Nick Curtis was then like the farthest like true GS thrower, in terms of distance that's trained with Dane on site. And then Tamand just took it right back from him. He's like, no. No, sir, you do not keep that. I am going to take my reign, because Tamand trains here full time. And he come back, throw 21-18. He threw over 20-50 in the final at the trials. He's actually right now, I believe, in Memphis for the American Track League competition. Wishing Tamand well. I think this is a breakthrough season for both of them, to show that like they're ready to finally compete at because they both made the final. And to have 2 people from the same club to make a small club. Like, we're not a Nike, we're not all this stuff, we don't really have much benefits. And they both made the final of the men's shot put, which I think is a statement to the level of training and commitment they've put towards the sport. And also, I'd like to say maybe the quality of our training.
Absolutely. These 2 have been, itching closer to that 21-meter, barrier. Nick did it first, which was like super huge. I was there for both competitions, as you can see. Yep, Sam's marking. The Nick competition, I just knew during the warm-ups. He was hitting them, and I was just like, Nick is looking good. And, he did it. I believe it was like pretty early. I think it was the first attempt, too.
I think it was first attempt.
Yeah. Tamand, when he went big, it was the same thing. I was standing out there for the warm-ups, And I remember I was sitting next to the 20-meter mark, and I was like, I need to move. He's throwing this really far. Like, I had to physically stand over to the side because I was like, he's throwing, like, I was standing close to the fence, and I was like, I got to move. He's going to hit me. And, you know, he went through that competition. He was locked in, and just put it together and popped off. Like, we've been talking about, I tell Tamon, like, yo, when am I going to get a pop off? And that was the day. Everything was perfect, just aligned, and he finally did it.
Yeah, and you know, here's actually going to be an update and some news. So we're looking to actually stream our shot put competition for PowerFest in the middle of August, and both these guys will be competing. So you know, maybe we'll even see some more 21-meter throws, and you know, maybe somebody will be chasing the facility record. That's over 2170. So make sure you tune in to our PowerFest live stream and check it out, because that's going to be a crazy comp. And I wanted to highlight just some of the Garage Strength alum Garage Strength throwers that are, you know, are going to the Olympics or going to Paris. And first off, we have Cece. You know, Cece wins the Nigerian championship. Mm-hmm. She's had a pretty solid season. She was unfortunately one of those throwers, similar to Annette, who was in Tokyo, qualified fairly, but just because of some, you know, bureaucratic BS, she didn't get a chance to compete. She's looking to, you know, right that wrong. And I think because of that, that's going to be a lot on her mind of like, I deserve to be here, and I'm going to just, it doesn't matter what happens next. I'm going to smash it. I'm just going to absolutely destroy it.
Absolutely. I agree. This is the revenge tour, you know, to say, for Cece. And, you know, I'm super glad that she has that opportunity again, and I feel like she's going to make it count. So congrats to Cece, and go do your thing.
And also we got our buddy, we were just training with him earlier today, Eric Favors for Ireland. He was just named to the Irish national team for the Olympics, so congrats to Eric.
Congrats, Eric. Shout out, Eric.
Eric is now going to be training in PA all the way up until Paris. I think he is going to I think he's ready to do something big. I think he's in a mentally good spot. He was recovering from minor injuries earlier in the year, so I think, you know, coming back, catching his base a bit, you know, being around friends, and you know, getting some really good high quality training in. Expect to see some big things from Eric.
Absolutely.
So to add to that list, we also have Obi Amechi, also competing for Nigeria. This will be her first Olympics. She hit a big PR in Ramona, throwing over 63 meters. She also won the All Africa Games, which in a shocking upset, I think. And you know, she's got her point total up, and she's going, man. And this has been a huge breakout season for her. I think, I don't know what to expect from Obi in Paris, but if she were to do something completely out of this world, it wouldn't surprise me, I don't think.
Absolutely not. I think in this competition, I think Obi PR'd maybe like 3 or 4 different times, and it was just like insane. And, you know, she's been very consistent, you know, throughout the remainder of the season, and, you know, she was in a position where she could qualify for the Olympics, and, you know, she's going. Shout out Obi. I feel like, you know, if everything is like, you know, perfect, she could, you know, put herself into the finals and, you know, do something. So it's just like, you never know.
You never know. So another thing, we were lucky enough, like I said earlier, to be at the New York Grand Prix. Sam and I were watching the women's discus together. Well, I actually think this may have been a mixed gender competition, but still, something that kind of went under our radar. Yaime went over 68 meters in this meet. So here's the thing. Yaime, unfortunately, will not be competing in Paris. There is a lot of political stuff between her eligibility and what country she can compete for. So it's hard to really explain what the whole issue is there. I would leave something like that up to Dane, if you're curious. But Yaime's still out there, just proving, bro, she's a world champion, and she threw 73 meters this year, and don't you forget it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The funny thing is, this was her first attempt. She went 68.31 on her first attempt, which is absolutely insane. I am very fortunate. I get to train with Yaime every day. I've literally seen her throw 70 meters several times at practice, which is like absolutely insane. She's truly like different. Like, she's truly special, and it's very unfortunate that she's not, able to compete at the Olympics this year, but, she'll be able to compete at the Diamond League finals, and I know the World Championship is next year, and I know she's very locked into, competing at both of those, so hopefully everything kind of just falls together, and, hopefully we see Yaime in LA 2028.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I think people don't even... I know this is a bit of a cliche, but you have not seen Yaime's final form.
No, not at all. Not even close.
So we're about to wrap up here soon, but I did need to highlight this because this has to be one of the craziest feats of strength I've ever seen in my entire life. And we react to Joe Kovacs videos, so that should say something. Jackson Cantwell, Christian Cantwell's son, this bull is 15 years old, and he's basically close grip bench pressing with he has very long arms, so this adds to it. 405 for...
I can't even fathom
I don't know what to say.
I can't even fathom that. I'm literally speechless. Like, this dude is... I know we've been saying, like, different athletes are different, but this is just different. This is out of this world.
I feel like it isn't real. Like, this is like fake weights you see on TikTok with people trying to get likes. But we know this is real.
We know this is legit, though. Man, like, you can even see the bend in the bar. Like, this dude is strong.
Sam, I'm going to say something that's going to both give us an existential crisis. He's about half our age.
I know.
He basically is half of you and I's age.
I know.
It is what it is, folks. Like, people like this in the world exist. You feel good about yourself, and then you see stuff like this.
Dude.
I'd like to see him throw his senior year because I think he's the best candidate to break Michael Carter's record. But I'm going to be real with you guys. If you know enough about Power 5 football, chances are that's probably not going to happen. He's probably going to give up his senior season. Maybe not. Maybe whatever school is recruiting him, maybe he'll be like, we'll have a soft spot for shot putting, and we'll be like, hey, this kid's going to do something that's very integral to the history of sport. But he might only have his junior year to do it. But honestly, with these kind of numbers, I actually think he could do it as a junior. Yeah. It's crazy. So we have our last thing that we're going to talk about. I'm going to go through this really quickly because Sam has to go down and coach. Is a video of Joe when I was had the pleasure of interviewing him at the trials. And this was a unique question that he got that I think is really important to the throwing community and how we look at the sport moving forward.
I just wanted to ask you one other question. Michael Johnson had unveiled his Grand Slam league, and of course, shot put, all field events are missing. Just curious about your thoughts and kind of like the place of field events in track and field as a whole.
Well, I hate how people maybe said some stuff about that. I think it's absolutely amazing what he's trying to do. Like our sport, anybody who wants to put that down, I just don't agree with it. Because, somebody who's trying to make our sport better, whether it's just the track events for now or it may always be there, I'm a huge fan of that. Because, anything that pushes us forward is a help. I think for myself, I got to focus on the Olympics now, but I've said this for years. I think it's my turn to kind of foster that for field events, the throws. My goal is to get the shot put in the Arnold Classic, all the strongman competitions, to start featuring us. And, when you come to a track meet, you have fans of runners who might be excited to watch the shot putters roll around there, but it's maybe not the same background. If we go to the Arnold Classic or the LA Fitness Expo, there's a lot of meatheads who understand the shot put and the periodization behind it that might be a little bit closer of an audience. So I think it's time that it's great for us to break up sometimes, and the throwers might need to have a little expo outside of the track, the same way that Michael Johnson's highlighting the track and field events and trying to make a story behind it.
So I'm just going to stop it there. I hate to say I told you so, but to Taman Johnson, it was like the morning before this competition. We were talking about the Michael Johnson meet, and I think I said almost verbatim what Joe was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to blow my own horn there. But, dude, I think Joe is spot on.
Absolutely. I feel like putting the shot put in those venues where there are people who would be, highly, highly interested, would, just expand our community even more than, how it's expanding now. Like he said, strongmen understand the periodization that goes into, shot put. Like, you have to be strong, and that's something that they truly understand. I think track athletes understand us as well, but fans of like runners may not understand that. And, you know, they can't put themselves in our positions or like try to, you know, understand that position. Whereas, you know, strongmen are the closest thing to us outside of weightlifting. And it's like, if we can get shot put or any other field event into these venues, that's just going to grow our community with people who understand.
So I'm going to give a quick marketing 101 lesson. There's a term called content market fit. And the reality is the content that we have of being throwers, we are strength athletes. In order for us to fit the market that would actually care for us and wants to watch us, we have to go to them. And the reality is we are a strength sport. We have to go and interact with other strength sports. Mm-hmm. And I think like those are going to be the fans that are probably going to care the most about us and are going to be, they don't have to have the full knowledge of the sport because they've already been involved in their strength sports. They're going to get it. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the quickest way to grow the sport. And also the reality of distance running is it's one of the most popular sports in the world because people do it recreationally and then you become fans of the elites. I think this is a great way to potentially make throwing recreational, just like how powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting has become.
Absolutely.
So I think Joe's on right, and I'm just going to say it right here to the camera, to whoever's listening after this very long throw show. Joe, if you have any interest in partnering with some people to help put on this event at the Arnold next year, we're there every year. We'd love to help out. We'd love to see Throws U partner with this event because I think it's the best step forward we can do for the shot put and all the other throwing events. Joe, love to help you any way we possibly can.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that's it for the throw show. We really do appreciate you guys sticking around this long. You know, thank you, Sam, for staying around so long. I know you got to go down and coach, and we'll see you next time. Make sure you click the link down below. Check out throwsuniversity.com for some strength programs, books, courses. If you want to become a better thrower, you're already in the right place. Head over to throwsuniversity.com. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.